a gentleman who has been an instrumental part of the global business of sport for many years now. I think his organization, Infront, is active. We'll ask him. They're active in 50-plus sport, involved in events at something around 4,000 event days per year. This is an incredible success story in the business of sport, and few people have a better overview and therefore insights into the direction of travel of the business of sport globally, and particularly here in China. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome to the stage the President of Infront and Vice President of Wonder Sports, Philippe Blatter. Philippe, hi. I was talking about people being busy, and you're super busy. You might just get your plane if we crack on this conversation. But welcome. Let's start with China. There are very few people that have come out of the global business of sport as the business of change. We have seen over recent years a raft of acquisitions where major Chinese corporations have become involved in sport. You've been intrinsically involved, given Wanda's role within Infront, and you sit now as a vice president on the board of Wanda Sports, hence the unique perspective. So I just wondered, how do you sum up the changes that you've seen in China in terms of sport in general, basketball in particular, and then the business of sport around it?
Yes, thank you very much. I first like to say something. We discussed yesterday a few times that, you know, how basketball is going to be the most popular sport in the world, and how we're going to catch up on football on different dimensions. What I want to say here, I haven't yet met a football player who has a career like Stephen Marbury, which is as inspirational as Stephen Marbury, who has been able to propel these values to us. And I would like again to say thank you, Mr. Stephen Marbury, for your inspiration. So here you see basketball is far ahead of football. Yes, I had the chance to be in China I came the first time in '94, and more intensively since I joined Infront in 2005. And then very intensively in 2015 when Wanda acquired Infront. What I've seen, one of the key dates was for me the Olympic Games in 2008, where I saw that at that moment China really has a goal to become a power nation in sports. And over the last 10 years, and we spoke yesterday, Patrick Baumann spoke about 2008 to 18 and then to 28. I think in the last 10 years, I've seen so much changes in the landscape of sports. And I would say there are a few trends that I personally notice. Is on one hand is the commitment of the government, of the highest authorities, of not just the central government, but of the local governments, of the cities. I've experienced huge investments in sports, in infrastructure, huge investment into grassroots, and not just basketball and football, but also in badminton, in table tennis, in swimming. I've seen a huge change in the way companies, Chinese businesses are seeing sports as a platform to promote their products, to use sports as a way to showcase what they have. I've also seen, as another trend, the professionalization of many of the leagues I've had the honor to work with, starting with the CBA. We've been working since 2005 with the CBA, and just amazing the changes that you've seen in the last 10 years. The CSL is another one, but many others. And then obviously, we've heard it this morning and yesterday, the digitization of the country and of the way consumer, and especially Chinese, who are so connected with their mobile for everything. And last but not least, we spoke about esports, and I believe that there's a tsunami coming, or already here in China, taking over China with esports as it does in Europe and in the US.
Yeah, we're in a fascinating place generally in China and in the rest of the world. But of course, so far as basketball itself is concerned, there's a big date coming up next year, the FIBA World Cup here in China, 2019, and Infront is intrinsically involved in that project. Perhaps you could share some insights and your thoughts about the impact that the Basketball World Cup will have on sport in China in generally, on basketball in China, and then thirdly, on basketball globally, because it would seem to me, as an observer, that this is set up as a major event which is going to have repercussions for the sport way beyond the host country.
Well, here's another place where basketball is so much far ahead of football, because the FIBA World Cup comes next year to China, and the FIFA World Cup still will take a decade, and if not more, to come to China. So here again, basketball has been very visionary to be so early back in China, and it's going to be a global event. I don't think it's it's a Chinese event. It's a global event. I think of the magnitude of a FIFA World Cup that we have seen this year in Russia. It's a main event next year. We are very proud to be part of bringing this event to the world. And we have heard, I don't want to repeat all what has been said in the last 2 days, but it's going to change as every major sports event in any countries. We've seen it in Russia, we've seen it in South Africa, we've seen in many different places that sports events are just changing the way people look at the sports. It changed the way that the people not from the country who have never traveled to a certain country, have never traveled to China, they will experience the friendliness, the openness, the professionalism of Chinese people, and the passion and the emotion that we'll have. And I always say, and it's also a bit what I say when I speak to my teams, the purpose of Infront is really to unite people in sports, to create emotion, to create passion, to fulfill dreams. And what's going to happen next year in China is unite people around the world, around one sport, basketball, but I'm sure not just basketball fans will unite around this competition, but all the sports fans will love to watch this.
Mm-hmm. We saw earlier this morning from Caitlin at Tencent, it's not a vision anymore, and William Field made this point. You know, if we were having this conversation not very long ago, some of the things we saw would be about the future. They're about here, and they're about now. Basketball seems uniquely well positioned to take advantages of developments in technology like that.
Yeah, I like also to add one point is that we cover more than 25 sports at Infront, and I'm very privileged to have a chance to visit many of these sports and to enjoy that. As a VIP, so I always say I have the best job in the world. But what I see at basketball is that it's more than a sport. It's a lifestyle. It's a way. I mean, we've seen it yesterday. It's a way how to move. We've just seen Stephen Marbury. It's a way on how to dress, what kind of music you're listening. It's much more than just the game as such, which maybe if I take football would be, it's the game, and maybe you recognize a football fan because he wears the shirt or because he has a special haircut, but a basketball fan, you notice it from the way he lives, and I think this is an important element, and that brings me to the fact that we discussed yesterday a lot that new digital opportunities opens up the access to new fans and to bring content to fans. I think it's right that today we have the chance to reach much more fans around the world. What is really important, and I think that's something we sometimes work, is how to engage with them. And it's one thing to reach, but it's another thing to engage. And why do I say that? Is that today, with traditional media, it's very difficult to reach, the 16 to 35. The reason being that they don't consume TV, normal TV, as I would consume, and they use their mobile, they use their tablet, but even then, I believe that we need to better understand how to use their communication channels. All the fans are today content creators. And I have twin boys, they are 14 years old, teenager. When they go to sports events with their mobile, they record the way you feel as a fan, how you feel in the corner where all the fans are. And then they post it. They post it on Instagram, on YouTube, on their channel, the channel that are not mine. And they speak their language, the language is not mine. And I think it's important in the next stage for the brands and for the rights holder, not just to create the content and to distribute it, but to do it on the channels of our fans and to use their channel, their language, their way of dressing, and use also the content they create.
Indeed. And do you think, in terms of that engagement, perhaps basketball more than anything else, because as again we discussed yesterday, of the environment that it's played in, it's a nice, close, it's an intimate environment, it's indoors, you can use lights, you can use screens, you can create an overall environment. Is basketball also therefore better placed than other sports to take advantage of the fusion of sport and entertainment than for example, let's say the S word, than soccer?
Yes. Yeah, sure. I mean, we've seen it again yesterday with the talk from Nike. I mean, sports and entertainment are very close to each other, and basketball, as I said, it's a community, it's a lifestyle. So this is very, very comes together, and I believe that's also one of the strength of basketball. That's why basketball is so popular. That's why in China it's the #1 sport, followed by table tennis, badminton, swimming, and only then football. You see, for example, back in Europe, in key markets like Turkey, we heard yesterday discussion about Turkey or the Philippines, where basketball is, I mean, there's more than 90% fans interest. And you see the same in key markets like Germany or Italy, Spain, France, which are huge market for media and for sponsors, which just shows the interest of basketball. And the other thing I would like to say is, maybe a little bit less now because my kids are a little bit older, but 2 or 3 years ago, if I go to some sports, I want to make sure it's safe. I want to make sure there's no hooligans. I want to make sure the fans of the two teams are not starting to fight. I want to make sure the values, no one goes and discusses the decision of the referee. So I think basketball brings all that. I've been to a few games with my kids, and that's a very nice environment which carries the values of sports, which not every sport, when you go and see live, you can enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Could I ask you just to comment on something that I brought up earlier this morning, and I think it's something that's on a lot of people's minds. Given the economic sort of supercharging of China at the moment, which is already having so many effects, the focus that there is on growing the CBA. Can you ever envisage a situation where the CBA and the NBA reach, if not parity, but there are changes to the global basketball market, because the absolute dominance of the NBA in so many respects is challenged by a league from China or any other country? And if you can, what does that do for the health of the sport, do you think?
I remember when I started working at Infront in November 2005, my first trip abroad was in China, and my first sports that I've seen was here a game of the CBA in December 2005. And at the time, I was not really thrilled because there was, some security officers showed me where to sit, and there was no hospitality. It was kind of not the most enjoyable experience back then. And when I see what happened in the last decade with the CBA, and we are very proud that we have been able to play a role in developing, supporting the CBA to where they are today. And it's when you go to an all-star game, of the CBA, it looks very much like if you go to an NBA all-star game. So the CBA and its leaders, the Chinese government, and all the teams have been able to bring the sport to a very high level very quickly. I believe what is also key, and we discussed that yesterday, is to have stars, is to have people that where the fans can identify to. Again, if I look at my kids, they don't follow really a team; they follow the star in the team. And with Mr. Yao Ming, we had, a legend coming here, and the same with Stephen Marbury. You see, those people are attracting. We have the same in tennis, women's tennis in China, or we had in track and field a few years ago. So to attract these stars is very important. Now, I believe the CBA has attracted also a lot of foreign sponsors, foreign brands who have recognized the quality of this league and are using this league to promote their product. And what you see also, there's a demand for media rights for the CBA also abroad. So back already before 2010, we sold or distributed the media rights of the CBA in the US, in California, for some of the Chinese communities we had there. And we had also, over the last year, more than half of the partners of the CBA were foreign brands. So I believe this is a huge development, and I think it will go forward. And I think there's still a lot of opportunities and potential in terms of the media side, but also in terms of the sponsorship side. And again, I'm not too worried, as Patrick Baumann said before, that the NBA will compete against the CBA. I think it's two different products. It's about basketball. It's like Bundesliga is not directly competing the Premier League or the Serie A. I think you have fans for both, and I'm sure if you are a football fan, you will watch Juve playing Bayern Munich or Real Madrid playing Paris Saint-Germain.
Okay, so a very positive assessment of the future of sport here in China and of basketball in general. So just to finish, we had in the opening address of this summit yesterday, Mr. Nyang, the vice president of FIBA, was talking about the dream, the aspiration that when youngsters, when they first start to play with a ball, it would be the orange of a basketball, not a soccer ball or a rugby ball or whatever. Is that, do you believe, an achievable dream at some stage in the past? Some stage in the past, at some stage in the present.
When I sit at a football congress, they say the first thing a kid does is kick the ball. So just as an anecdote, yesterday when I flew in, there was in front of me, the seats in front of me, there was a mom with a kid, and the kid was actually playing. He was not kicking the ball, but he was playing with the ball. So I think that's part of wherever you put a ball, people will start taking it and playing with it. And I believe that's the power of sports. And that's the chance, the unique chance we have to work and to promote sports, to unite people with good values, with emotion, passion, the values of sport that we heard before. And we should continue, all contribute. And I think that's absolutely amazing to see the family of basketball coming together like this. That, for example, we are invited as commercial partners. We are here to bring the money, but and that's it. But not to discuss the future of the sport. And I think it's unique and special that we have the chance to be here and to see all the key stakeholders of basketball, and that's the team is always what makes the difference. And also when I've seen the leaders today of the sport here on stage, you see there's a cohesion, there's a will to work together, and I think the future is bright if we do the right thing and if we continue with the same spirit.
Great. What a note to finish on. The future for basketball is bright. Philippe Blatter, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Thanks. Thanks. Okay, Philippe, thanks. We know he really does have to rush to get to a plane. Now, as I look around me, I'm looking to see whether I can see the moderator for our next panel session. Is Mr. Houning with us? He's not. In which case, what we're going to do is take a very quick comfort break, and we'll come back to complete the society segment with what promises to be, yet again, a fascinating panel. Would you please take advantage of this next 10 minutes, take the comfort break, and we will see you back in here to continue with our program. Thanks very much indeed.